to have you guys here. I am going to share my screen for you guys so that you can see all this that's going on. And one, first of all, welcome to my home. It's been a week for me, and I was coughing in the office first thing on Monday, and so the office staff was like, "You are out of here. Go work from home." So welcome to my home. Just know, at 11 o'clock in my house. You may see some dogs running around and barking from time if Amazon shows up. You may see even my mother-in-law walk by in her, nightgown. It just, I can never tell you what's going to happen in my house. So welcome to all of you that are live with us right now and all of you that are going to be watching this on recording as well. I am excited today to just be able to share the next hour with some really, really good people. Mr. Bill Cox, who has been just a patriarch in our office and in real estate, to Dylan Peterson, who has been really with us for less than 3 months. I think, Dylan, hasn't it been less than 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kristen, I mean, I am so excited. Kristen is one of our mentors and works with a lot of our agents. And so I am very, very excited to have all of you guys here today. And today we're going to even have John Hanson jumping in. He's on a Zoom call right now doing some stuff, but and as I say the name, it's like magic. Here comes John Hanson jumping in right now. But it is good to have all of you. I want to make sure for the panelists that you are all unmuted. You can make sure that your mics are unmuted. Your cameras all look good. John, I don't know if you can turn on your camera real quick. There he is. Well, for a second, he was there. So I'm going to do a quick test. If you would just introduce yourself and kind of what you do and what your role is and what you specialize in. Mr. Cox, we'll start with you, sir.
Bill Cox, been with the company here 6.5 years. Been in the business for about 27 or 28, mostly as a listing broker. And my role here today is to talk about how you get your offers accepted from the listing standpoint.
Awesome.
The other side of the fence.
Yes. And Dylan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, all, I'm Dylan Peterson. Been licensed for just about a year now. I specialize in first-time home buyers for the most part. Most of my transactions have been with buyers. Had a couple listings, but I love working with buyers.
It's awesome. And Dylan, do you want to just share real quick? You've been with us for just under 3 months. How many deals do you have pending or have closed so far this year?
I think I was looking at it the other day, and as long as everything I have in escrow closes, that'll be 28 deals. Some of those were before I joined KWPS, but the most of them were here.
Yeah. So it was pretty amazing, guys, when we had to get a hand truck to help him take his commission checks out to his car. So it was very, very nice. So, and Kristen, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, Kristen Campbell, and I have been a realtor for 6 years, and I came to KW a couple years ago from Windermere. And I am a listing and buyer's agent. I do both, and a managing broker and mentor in our office. And I wouldn't say I have a specialty. I work with whomever I'm working with. So, but I do a lot. This year I focused a lot on Washington State Housing Commission classes. So I do have a lot of people doing the Washington down payment assistance, which is a special, unique set of buyers. And in this market, it produces its own challenges. So
yes, it does. Yes, it does. So, and of course, everybody knows, without introduction, everybody knows Mr. John Hanson in his LA hat. And so representing the Dodgers there very well. But John, we're going to start off today with you. And as we're talking about buyers and buyers agents and getting your buyers offers accepted, I kind of want to start the groundwork with you here a little bit and talk to us about what your expectations are as a designated broker. When we're working with buyers, what are your expectations for our agents?
Well, when we're talking about getting offers accepted for our buyers, which of course is the subject today and the challenge that so many of us face, I find that my fear is that an agent is going to be telling their client what they've got to do to get their offer accepted. you're gonna have to waive the inspection. So let's just waive that. And you're gonna have to cross out or line out paragraph W. So let's just line that out right now. You're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to. And so that's my biggest fear, I guess, in this market, in this environment, is to have those, is to think of agents having those kinds of dialogues.
Well, can you, when you say an agent has to do, or a client has to do this, how would you recommend the buyer's agent, how do they have those conversations, right? Because sellers are looking for, the best deal for their seller.
Sure. Right. So my expectation would be that an agent is going to explain, the market to their client, which of course they do. But in doing so, they're going to say, so sometimes in order to get your offer accepted over another offer, you've got to take some risks. And you have to understand what that means. If you take a risk, if you, for example, waive your financing, if you, for example, waive your inspection contingency, you've got to understand there's going to be consequences for that. And I just want to make sure that you understand what those consequences could be. You could win the competition for this listing and be the buyer, be the lucky buyer and get it. And then you could move in and find out a month later that there's a ton of problems with that house that, should have been taken care of before completing the purchase. Or you could, 2 years down the line, find out that the house is now worth $150,000 less than it was worth when you bought it 2 years ago. And many of you know that that's a reality. That's one of the things that could be, and we just don't know. We can't see the future. But for us to try to project for them and tell them what to do is, again, where my fears come from. So I just expect the agents to explain the market to them, explain the complications, explain the possibilities, both the pros and the cons that could be there.
So full detail explanation then really is what we're looking for, right? And so let's talk with all of our panelists about philosophy, right? And Bill has provided some slides here for us, but I want to kind of go into it. And I should have shown your pictures up here. Sorry, I apologize. But let's get into kind of philosophy here a little bit. And Bill, really truly speaking from the listing specialist, you specialize more in listings. You do some buyers, but you really come from the listings, agent's point of view. Can you talk us through a little bit about this? Especially in I think more than anything at all, you talk about this really highly. And this is actually the first point that we have on the slide here, is make the firm commitment to be the best realtor you can be. Talk to me about that from a listing agent's point of view.
Well, I guess, and I'm not here to trash anybody, but if you do enough of this business, for example, a couple of years ago, we had a listing in Burien where we got 27 offers. And the range of the performance of the agents involved was like one end of the spectrum to the other. And there are a lot of people that will make the investment to be the best they can possibly be. Then there's others that seem to have the perception that, or at least made the decision to do as little as they can, or do what they can do to get away with doing as little as they possibly can. And that's going to show. I mean, it shows in their income, it's going to show in their reputation. And my theory has always been, set a goal to be the best you can possibly be, develop a reputation as the person that the other people want to work with, so that they're picking you out of the pile. If you're one of 27 offers and they see your name there, you want your purchase and sale agreement to float to the top.
That's excellent. So let me ask you, Dylan, right? Bill is talking about being the best realtor you can be. Obviously, you've closed tons of deals in your first year of real estate. How is it that you make the commitment to be the best realtor you can be?
You want to begin with always having a very positive attitude. This market, if you're not going to win them all, so you have to be able to maintain that positive attitude for yourself, for one, so you can keep pushing forward, and also that's going to translate to your buyers as well, because it's easy to get beaten down, but if you're leading the way with a positive attitude, that kind of sets the foundation for being the best that you can be. And then, when you're talking with the listing agent, you definitely want to portray yourself as a professional, be nice, all the basic stuff. I've had some offers accepted where the listing agent has told me that they've had other agents that have yelled at them and cussed them out for not taking their offer. And you definitely never want to do that, because that sets you up for bad future deals with those agents, for sure.
Yeah, I think it goes back to Bill's second point there, right? Set a goal, develop the reputation, the being the person of the realtors that realtors want to work with.
Exactly.
I mean, don't want to burn that bridge. So, Kristen, how do you become that agent? You get lots of offers accepted, right, for your clients. How do you become the best realtor that you can be when you're out there?
Well, similar to what Dylan was saying and Bill was saying, I go into it with a positive attitude, and I really set expectations and that environment with my buyers going in. So that, like I said, Dylan said, we don't win them all, but I prepare my buyers to understand that if we don't win it, this may not be the right house, and the right one will come at the right time and we'll win it. So always having that positive attitude when I'm working with other agents. For me, it is professionalism. And I try to connect with them on a personal level as a realtor to realtor. We know what this life is like. As a listing agent, I know what it's like, and as a buyer's agent. So when I'm talking with them, I come at it at the standpoint of, make sure I'm not taking too much of their time, but I'd love to learn a little bit about what your clients' needs are. And I understand that you're probably really busy and you have a lot going on. And so I completely understand that, and just really start developing an understanding that I understand what they're going through. And my job with them is to help make this the goal to have a transaction that both the sellers and the buyers feel really good with, and that it's easy and it's comfortable, and that we're all working towards the same goal. So we're there to win together.
That's awesome. Bill, what is the difference for you when a buyer's agent comes with clients that have the expectations set ahead of time versus clients that don't have the expectations? What does that do for you as a listing agent?
Well, to me, it's a lot about their attitude. My theory is that, for example, I get a lot of people who start off, well, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I want to tell you how smart they are and how much they know. Frankly, I would much rather work with someone who is an absolute rookie doing their first deal that has a good attitude than somebody who comes after me with how much they know and, tries to blow me over with how impressed they are with themselves. That does nothing for me.
Okay. That's good. Well, so let's talk about this a little bit, right? I mean, what are listing brokers typically looking for in the selling broker, right? Or the buyer's agent? Bill, you want to talk about these just a little bit?
Yeah, the professionalism and high ethical standards, I think, is pretty straightforward. A lot of people have great job knowledge, but they don't have market knowledge. For example, going into a property where there's nothing on the market, making an offer on this property and coming in with an unrealistic understanding, for example, coming in under full price and, asking for all kinds of concessions. Basically, you want to demonstrate that you know what you're doing. The big thing for me is a win-win mentality. A lot of people make this an adversarial situation, like I have to win because I'm a high D, or I'm working with a client who expects me to win. And if both parties don't win, it's not going to happen. I mean, the listing broker is not there to roll over when he's got 25 offers. It's just going to have to be, how do we work this out so everybody comes out on the top? Kristen already talked about this business-like demeanor, making good use of their time. Typically, as soon as you put a listing on the market these days, the phone rings off the hook. And our program on my team is we list on a Thursday and we review offers Tuesday or Wednesday. you can plan on those 4 or 5 days being nothing but telephone calls.
Sure.
And, a lot of that has to do with developing rapport. And I'm a huge proponent of that, but there's a fine line between that and being a pain in someone's posterior.
Okay.
That next line, willingness to do your share of the work. Fundamentally, this whole thing to me is, excuse me, this is the honeymoon period. Anything you're doing before the mutual acceptance process is strictly the honeymoon. That's when you got to expect people are going to be on their best behavior, work the hardest. And if they're an idiot up front, it's going to get nothing but worse once you've got mutual acceptance. If they're not willing to do the work, if they write a sloppy offer, if they take the shortcuts, it's only going to get worse. So demonstrate that you know what you're doing and you're willing to do the work, and it's going to be thorough work. We're held to the standard of an attorney. And I will tell you, a lot of the language that we see as a listing broker is just plain horrible.
So question on that real quick. So when an offer comes over, do you think listing brokers prefer offers that come over that leave blanks on the form? It says default 10 days or default 5 days, and they leave it blank. Do you prefer seeing, an agent that writes numbers in there, or do you prefer just the blanks?
Absolutely. The standard on the Cox Gibson Real Estate Group is thou shalt not ever put out a purchase and sale agreement that has any blanks. And basically, it shows the listing broker that you thought about this, your client agreed to it, and it wasn't just a case of an oversight. It's hugely important to fill out every blank. And even if you just put in NA or something like that, but
Okay.
make sure that they know that you have done the job.
And Bill, can I pony up on that a little
Yes,
bit?
please do, John. Yeah.
So that would also, just as he's indicated how it's written is so important, doing something like lining out paragraph W is the unauthorized practice of law. It is something that Annie Fitzsimmons has said that we should not ever do.
Yeah.
My fear with that is basically for the seller, because somehow in people's minds they think it's going to be a good thing not to have that 10-day verification period exist. But in actuality, if the seller doesn't want to get sued after closing, the best defense they're going to have is to give the buyer their due diligence, to give the buyer their 10-day verification period, to give them their 10-day inspection period, so that when the deal closes, if there is something the buyer wants to sue for, they will probably lose because they were given their verification periods. And when we take that away from them, then the seller is left vulnerable to a suit after closing.
I won't argue with that at all with you, John, but I will let you know that later on in one of the slides here, it's going to show up as one of the things that I think you can do to make it more attractive to the listing broker and to the seller is to take that 10-day period. And for example, if you've already cut down the inspection period to 5 days, 21W is another weasel clause, or a way for a client or a buyer to get out of a transaction. If you're trying to woo the listing broker and the seller, if you've got a 5-day inspection period, cut that 21W down to 5 days. They still have the same rights. They just have a shorter time frame within which to do it. But it takes one more weasel clause out of the transaction for the seller and the listing broker.
Okay. John,
Okay.
I see you bebopping back and forth. So
It's because yeah, I understand where he's coming from, and I just wanted to add to that you, Bill, were mentioning, and also the other Bill was mentioning that the rapport that's developed between the agents is really what matters, in this process. And so for you to get on your high horse and start telling the listing agent, what a jerk he is, or what a fool he is, or whatever, is not going to win you anything, And so usually, just like coaching, the best coaches ask questions. So you just want to ask the right questions about that, So as a listing agent, is your feeling that this is a kind of this paragraph W is a weasel clause, or is your feeling that it's going to protect your seller for a lawsuit after closing? How do you view this? Just ask them the question and get a discussion, a little bit of a discussion going to make sure that's what they want.
Okay, that's good. Well, looking at that, right? And here's the great thing about this, guys, is there's so many different ways to do this, right? There are so many different ways. We are in a low inventory, high demand market. And so how do we make these the best offers that we can make them? And that's really, I mean, knowing what those forms are about. And that's one of the next points that you have on here, Bill, right? Is knowledge and use of the Northwest MLS forms. And so with that, knowing how to use them, talk to me about what forms you want to see in there.
Well, typically, most good listing brokers will have a number of forms that are already signed by the seller. For example, the FERPTA 22E, the 22J, the 22K. They'll often have a 42A, the multiple offer or multiple agent forms. They should have a legal description. They should have a Form 17. I can't tell you how many times I will get offers that my client has already signed the forms. We've posted them on the MLS, but the selling broker starts from square one. So my client has to do them over again. Basically, it shows that either you don't care or you're not smart enough or you don't have the time, don't want to take the time. And again, it's another negative signal that you are not going to be a good person to work with.
I love that. And Dylan, I mean, when you're writing offers up, what form, I mean, I'm sure you're looking at the supplements, on the Northwest MLS, but are you including a lot of additional forms in your offers? Are you keeping your offers pretty simple and basic?
Well, listing agents, I think for the most part want to see offers as clean as possible, but I'll always put a 22A in there, 22D, 22T, and then depending if it's on septic, always whatever that county is, or
Sure.
just the general septic addendum. And yeah, definitely always check to see what attachments have been included with the listing.
Okay.
And I think putting them all together, it's a little thing, but I think putting them all together in alphabetical order, very clean, goes a long way when you're looking at it on the other side.
I know that's one of my things is anytime I submit an offer, everything is in alphabetical order, right? Just because I want that listing broker to be able to go and find it where it should be. So Kristen, what's one of the things that, I mean, the forms that you include that are just mandatory? If it's not in the supplements, what are some of the forms that you're including in your offers? Or are you just keeping it simple?
Oh, I keep it pretty simple, just like Dylan. All of mine, first I look to see what supplements are uploaded. I can tell right away that sometimes the listing agent, I can tell by their name or if I know them. If they're busy and if they have an assistant, someone didn't load something up, there's sometimes missing seller disclosures, there's missing information. So I will have to reach back out and say, hey, I want to put together a great offer for you and have it go all over at one time. So do you have the seller's disclosure available that you can email me? Do you have the FERPTA ready to email me? Because a lot of agents aren't even using the FERPTA. They're not, listing agents aren't even loading them.
Yeah.
So if it's not there, I still pull it down and I put it with my package. And so when I use a Transaction Desk to pull in the materials for the offer, I don't know if people recognize this if you don't use Transaction Desk, but it puts all their supplements at the very bottom of the transaction. And so you need to move them around. So I do put them all in alphabetical order. So I move the FERPTA where it's supposed to be. I put the 22J and K where it's supposed to be, so that it's all nice and in order so that they can see it. And I always do it that way. So I don't get fussy with extra forms. Sometimes I'll put in an escalation clause if it's necessary. I personally use the earnest money note on a lot of my offers. It's just simple and easy to use, and allows them to have that 3 days after mutual acceptance to drop off their earnest money check.
Okay. All right. And we'll talk about, I know that's on one of our upcoming slides here that Bill's going to talk about as well. So I like Bill's next point though, communication, ask questions and listen. Kristen, one of the things that I absolutely love about the things that you do is the relationship building that you do with listing brokers before you ever submit the offer. And so can you talk us through your process of how you go about doing that?
Sure. It really often depends on that agent, but I try to do the same thing because some agents are much more willing to have a conversation than others. So, and of course, I want to be careful of their time as well. But I do call beforehand, many times, either before I show the house or while I'm there, even with the buyer, and I just let them know that we're there or that I'm going to go see this property and the listing looks great. And I have a couple questions beforehand. And I'll just talk to them about the property. And then I also want to ask them a little bit about their client. And I say, beyond price, does your client need anything special? Are they looking for a longer close time? Do they need a rent back? Is there anything special you want to share with me about your clients? And it's funny, there's some agent that just say, nope, it's all about the money. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I still try to keep it short and sweet, but I really do try to develop somewhat of a relationship. Maybe if I've known them or I know what office they're in, I'll ask them, hey, I know so-and-so in your office. We worked on a deal. So I try to make some type of rapport connection with them to develop that.
Okay.
And
The important thing for me and what Kristen just said there was she calls. I will tell you that on that deal, and we had a deal in Green where we had 27 offers. I would say out of the 27 offers, 7 people bothered to make any contact with me. The other 20 just sent me an email. You can't develop rapport with an email. You can't develop rapport very well with a text. Pick up the damn phone. And I realize for a lot of young people that may be a problem. And this, I'm probably showing my age. But if you really want to make a connection, develop some rapport with somebody, you're also going to learn a whole lot more. The more you can get that person to talk, you're going to learn things that they may not otherwise tell anybody.
correct.
The phone is the only way to do that. And I'm sorry for anyone who's been offended. Yeah, I'm old school and old, but that is the best way to build rapport.
Listen,
It's crucial.
yeah. And Jay Wendelberg was just making a comment on there. So, Dylan, how many times, how do you establish rapport with the listing broker? How do you establish that communication?
A lot of times I text, to be honest with you. I do call, and a lot of times it seems like listing agents are out showing as well, and I have a hard time getting in contact with people. But as soon as I make that call, most of the time, a lot of my communication is over text. I do try to build as much rapport as possible. Call them or text them while I'm writing the offer, just like Kristen. I asked them, other than price, what terms would stick out to your seller, and you'll learn a lot with that. Sometimes they need a longer closing, where if you have flexible buyers, you can make things work if they're not set
Okay.
on time. Yeah, and I think that goes a long way.
That's good. So, Bill, you also put on here integrity. Talk to me. What does integrity mean to you?
Well, to me, it's a couple things. One is live up to your word. I had a recent deal in Federal Way where the guy promised me, we won't, our inspection will just be pass, fail. And, and then they come in with a laundry list of about 10 things that they want. To me, it's live up to your word and negotiate in good faith.
Okay.
Be who you say you are, and don't say things. A lot of people want to make fairly bold statements, and then they find out that their client doesn't agree. You as the selling broker, you're not just representing yourself. As John pointed out, it's not about you. It's about you and your client and how you want to do business together, how you can work together. And the concept of just telling listing broker everything you think they want to hear, and then later on not being able to live up to it is a big problem.
That's perfect. I love that. So,
Yeah, Bill,
yeah, go for it, John.
in this conversation, I just want to say that Dr. Phil McGraw, a TV psychologist, says that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So if you are trying to put together a deal and the other agent is unresponsive, is arrogant, is an ass, they're probably going to be that way during the transaction. What you're getting is what you're going to get.
There you go. Well, and Susan has a great question here, right? Susan asks, she says, I love these ideas, but how do these things translate to the seller client? Meaning, how can our opinion of the buyer's agent affect or influence the seller? Bill, maybe you can answer that best.
Well, typically when I present multiple offers, or even if it's a single offer, I talk about what I know about the buyer, what I know about this agent. It goes back to what Kristen said about setting expectations up front. I want my client to understand that, I recently had an offer, a situation came up where it was with an agent that I had worked with in the past twice, and they were both horrible experiences. In fact, in the last one, his agent basically fired him and started working with me, which made that very uncomfortable because I can't represent her.
Mhm.
And so, my failure to share that information with my client would have been suicidal, and it's a lack of integrity on my part.
Yeah.
I do try to let them know, here's what I know about these people. Here's how I see this offer. Let's just walk through it together and we'll see how you feel about it. And then if we need to ask more questions, I'm not opposed to picking up the phone and calling the selling broker and saying, okay, here's what I understand about your offer. Here's what I know about your buyers. What else can you tell me?
So, well, and I love that. And I know when I have listings and I have a broker that comes in, a selling broker that comes in and is making an offer, if I've worked with them in the past, if I have personal experience with them, I share with my seller, my past experience with that selling broker, right? And maybe of all the offers that have come in, I'm like, you know what? This buyer's agent, Kristen here, has been on the phone and she's talked to me 4 times before she ever submitted the offer. She's already asked the questions. We've already given her the answers. I think she, and I have no problem saying, I think she's more in tune to what's going on with the home. And I think it'll be in my opinion, it may be a smoother transaction only because of what this agent has done here. So, but John, my question for you, and Susan was asking this, is what are we allowed to say about the selling broker to our clients?
About the selling broker?
Yeah. So, I mean, as the listing agent, what can we tell our seller about that selling broker?
Well, and we do want to be careful about that, but and I'm going to answer that question, but I first want to say that we have to be careful in these conversations about our clients, or asking questions about the other agent's client, to not ever have any discussions about nationality or race or
Right. Yes.
any of those things. That you just don't want any conversation whatsoever about any of those things. But
Right.
to answer your question about the agent, I've got to be careful all the time because I have experience on a regular basis with trouble, right? Because that's my job, is to help deal with trouble. And so I have a temptation sometimes to say, oh, don't, be careful with that agent, be careful, those types of things. And I have to bite my tongue on it because, in all fairness, maybe they just had one bad transaction, right? So maybe what I'll say is, I've experienced one bad transaction with that agent.
Yeah.
And maybe there were circumstances, so who knows? So in other words, I always try to use a caveat of some kind when if I'm going to opine about that other agent. I'm going to say, I've only had one bad experience, and it could be that something was going on then, I don't know.
Yep.
But I do want you to know that I did have a bad experience working with that agent.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And Bill, maybe you can relate to this. I know for me, I never tell my sellers about an agent that I haven't worked with, right? And maybe you came to me at some point and said, "Boy, don't ever work with Dylan. He's awful," right? Well, if I've never worked with Dylan, I'm not going to go to my sellers and say, "Hey, my other agent says, don't work with this guy." I'm only going to talk about what my experience is with that agent
Right.
on past deals or what that agent has done to set their offer up ahead of everybody else's.
Right, and that bullet about professionalism and high ethical standards is meant to cover that.
Yeah.
You know, we have rules of ethics where we're not allowed to trash other agents. By the same token, I think, as John pointed out, we can effectively share our opinion about our personal experiences that are important, that may have an impact on the transaction. You
Yeah.
can do both just by being careful in how you word things and making sure that it's your opinion, not something you heard from somebody else.
Okay. Very good.
Bill,
Yeah, go, Kristen, go for it.
I was just going to say, this year, one of the ones that stood out, and I had a couple that stood out with developing relationships with agents.
Yeah.
One of them specifically, one of the extra forms I did use, and I just forgot to mention it, was the 22 AD. And that's bringing money in to offer in case of low appraisal, right?
Yeah.
To maybe cover some of that gap. But in this particular case, I had clients that really desperately wanted this house, and we put in the offer. I spent time developing phone calls and relationship with that agent, and it got to the point where she was calling me back, and she goes, I love your offer. I'm looking forward to it. I hope they pick yours because I want to work with you, right? In the end, she goes, it came down to our offer and the other offer. And she called me and she goes, I'm really surprised they took the other offer because basically they were neck and neck. She goes, and I was kind of disappointed they didn't pick you because she goes, I really wanted to work with you. So I understood, and I said, I really appreciated it. She said a house around the corner was going to be listed in 4 days by another agent in her office. And I said, great, I will be watching for it and see if it comes up. And in fact, it did. And I went and took my clients over that morning, the minute it got listed, called that agent, started talking to him. And I called him and I said, hey, my clients would love to make an offer. If I write you a compelling offer, would you be willing to take this off the market today? And he goes, well, send me over the offer and I'll definitely share it with my clients. And I did send it over, and he called me. He said, he goes, the agent around the corner that you lost on that last house, she called me and told me about you. And he said, from what she said, if my clients like this, he goes, I can't wait to work with you. And he took it off the market that day. So we won. And so
that's what reputation does.
Yeah. And so the other agent talked me up. So that was good.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, reputation, Pam says this, and I'm gonna butcher it, but Pam says this all the time. And our reputation is about what the other agents are telling other agents about us, right? I mean, that's how the reputation is built and stuff like that. So that's awesome. So Bill, real quickly with this last point though, under promise and over deliver. Talk to us about that.
Well, it kind of goes back a little bit to what I said before about the guy who promised me the moon on how they were going to handle their inspection. And to me, it smacks of a lack of integrity. But this, to me, it goes to not only how you handle things with the other broker, but how you handle things with your own client. A lot of people want to say, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take care of all this stuff for you, and we're going to have a field day with these people. Be honest, be open up front, do those things that you can do, and don't go beyond that. And, do the extra things. For example, you talked about filling in the blanks. What I try to do and have everybody on our team do is when they're making out the contract, if, for example, that the seller lives in that residence, fill out that side of the equation where it's the seller's address and that sort of thing. Anything you can do to show the other agent that you are willing to do the extra work, you're paying attention, you are killing yourself to make the best offer you possibly can, to me is just a great investment of your time. A lot of people say, that's a waste of time, I don't need to do that. You're right, you don't. But I will tell you that those people that do tend to stand out as the people that a listing broker is going to want to work with way more than the others.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So very good. Let's look here at our next slide, right? The mechanics of this, right? We've already kind of talked about this, building rapport with the listing broker. It starts before the showing, right? And you said this, Bill, pick up the telephone, still available. Now, in Dylan's generation, right? And we're all older than Dylan, just by the way, on this call. But Dylan, I mean, you communicate a lot through text messaging. I mean, that's how you communicate, right? You do pick up the phone, you do call, but then you're also in that text messaging. And so how are you best able to build rapport through that text messaging, do you think?
Well, on my way to the property, if I think it's going to be one that my buyers are going to like, I'll start the communication there. Introduce myself, tell them my name, what office I'm out of, tell them, what my clients are looking for, tell them we love your property. Is there anything you can tell us about it? And usually I'll get a little bit more information then. And then I'll just kind of keep building the rapport. If a opportunity for a little joke or something comes up, kind of read the room. If sometimes people aren't very talkative, and in that case, you do want to be mindful of their time. But if somebody's open to talking with you, use it, build that rapport with them, and keep the conversation going. Definitely.
I love that. Okay. And Kristen, if you see what Bill has here, right?
Mhm.
And I think you do this, I've watched you do this. And so that's why I want to ask you about this. But I mean, the question Bill says here, right? Is it still available? Anything I need to know about what's in the MLS? But then I love this, even before sending the offer over, hey, I'm going to send an offer over, right? But even before you send that offer, to just call again, right? And, confirm the availability and advise that you're going to be sending the offer. And hey, by the way, this is what I love. I love it when an agent calls me. I had this last night. An agent called me, said, hey, we're going to be sending over an offer. So can't wait to see it. Right. But literally he called me, 2 hours later. Okay, I'm sending the offer over now. You should have it in your email in the next 2 minutes.
Right.
Perfect. Then I know to go look for it. Right. Kristen, why do you do that?
Well, I do it because, of course, it's the touches. It's still developing that rapport. They will remember you because you're talking to them and communicating with them. I think also I do text as well. So I'm not only calling them, I'm texting as well. So when I call and I let them know my final questions and just to get a little more detail to another touch, I let them know, I said, we're writing the offer right now. I should expect that it'll get over to you about this time tonight, but definitely before I send it over, I will text you as well. And they go, oh, that'd be great, because they are busy and they're out and about and maybe they won't know what's coming in. And I have to be honest, when I've been on the listing side and I got multiple offers, I had a couple agents say, hey, did you get our offer? And their offer never came through. But they never called me to let me know it was coming. So I didn't go to look for it.
I cannot tell you how many times that has happened, right? I mean, where literally when I'm representing the buyer, that I've called the agent, said, hey, I'm sending this over in the next 5 minutes, expect to see it. And they've called me 10 minutes later and said, hey, I didn't receive your offer. I went back in, I put an extra letter in the email, right? In their email address, and they didn't get it, right? And what a difference it made just by having that communication. There's a question, and I apologize. I know I'm sharing my screen here, so it may go to, I got to fix this here real quick. There we go. Dylan, do you use Video BombBomb to help build rapport? Do you use video or BombBomb?
I have sent a quick little video message before, just to introduce myself and put a face to the name when I know that there's a lot of offers.
Okay.
I don't use BombBomb. I have a lender who uses it, and it looks pretty cool, but I haven't dove into it.
Okay. And Bill, do you view videos, or have you viewed videos, and how do you view videos if they come in from an agent?
I have never received one.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, Travis. There's your answers there, man. So, okay. I love on here, don't always make assumptions. It's not always about the price, right? How do you guys ask that question to a listing broker? What's the question you ask there?
I will give you the best example I have. About 15 years ago, there was a front page article in the Wall Street Journal. This was back when the market got hot before it really tanked. And the article was about why this woman in San Francisco, who was in her mid 80s, selected an offer that was $30,000 less than the best, highest offer. The punchline was that the listing broker and the buyer asked the right questions. And, if you look at what I've written here, what's important to you as a listing broker? I will admit, part of that is a form of sucking up or developing a rapport. But I do want to know what's important to you. It's not just about the seller, because you're the one that's going to be handling this. I want to know what's important to both of them.
There you go.
But in this particular case in San Francisco, it turned out that the seller was in her mid 80s. She had no family. She was going into an assisted living home, and she had way more money than she would ever spend the rest of her life. But the important thing for her was her property bordered on a park, and a big part of her life was feeding the squirrels.
Mm.
This broker and buyer took the time to figure out what was important to her, and they put in their offer that they would feed the squirrels. That's what got them the deal instead of the party who paid $30,000 more. And that goes back to ask questions, listen, really feel in your heart. I want to know what's important for you. I want to make this a win-win. It's not just about slamming together a purchase and sale agreement.
Okay. I love that.
I did have an agent when I was talking to them. I said, I was trying to get as much detail as I could. And I said, is there anything else that might be valuable for your sellers? I said, are they, and she goes, well, they really are about family and want to know that someone's going to love this home. I said, so are you open to sharing a informational letter about my buyers? And some people call it a love letter. I call it informational, like an introductory letter, because I really instruct my buyers how to prepare a letter that's about them without getting all mushy and weird. Because that's, I think, I don't like that. I like it to be about who they are, the careers that they have, and that they have children, and they're hoping to be able to grow in that home, and they can see themselves having family meals out on the patio, things like that, and the strength of who they are. Right. Yeah. And so the other agent would say, yes, that would be an excellent way to get their attention, because there are many times we don't send in introductory letters, but sometimes that helps.
And I love that. And I'm watching John Hanson kind of twitch a little bit. Right. So John, anything you want to say to that?
Just that you want to be careful to make sure that nothing discriminatory is contained in those letters that are being sent out. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd have to say, as a listing agent, when I'm listing, I really don't like getting those letters. I don't like it because I'm worried about what they have in them, because some agents don't, like John's saying, they're not careful about what's in those letters.
Yeah.
So
I don't like getting the ones with the family picture, right?
No.
And stuff like that, and going, hey, show this, because I'm like, I'm not going to show that to my seller.
Nope.
Right.
And frankly, our region's top lawyers are not in agreement on those love letters.
Sure.
You know, some of them say, yes, you should always use them. They're always a good thing. And some of them say, no, don't ever use them. They're not a good thing. So I think that we just have to take care to make sure there's nothing discriminatory in them.
Right.
Okay. Quick question for Dylan. You know, do you prepare? One of the questions Bill has in here, right, is how much time will your seller need to respond to the offer? Do you set the expectation with your buyers then, you know, and with the listing agent? Do you set the expectation with both of when you expect an answer by?
Yeah, I try to. One of the questions I like to ask, and I know a lot of listing brokers don't like to hear it, is would your client be open to accepting an offer before the review date if the right offer came in? And I think a good opportunity for buying agents right now, if the answer is no and you have a few days, that's a great opportunity to do a pre-inspection and know exactly what you're getting into in the house. And if everything looks good, you can strengthen your offer that much more by getting rid of that contingency after you already have done the inspection and everything looks good. And then I've had plenty of times where they've said, yeah, if the right offer comes in, we'll take it off the market, and have success with that. One thing that I will say is don't trust the review dates. If you have a client that likes the house and wants to make the offer, jump on it. I've seen them go off the market when I thought I've had time to go show the house. We haven't seen it yet, but it happens all the time. So now I bring my laptop all the time, and if time is of the essence, I'll plug in my hotspot right there in my truck, and I'll start writing up the offer right there.
Hear that, people? I hear that, right? I mean, that's showing you preparedness, showing you everything else that you could write the offer up right then and there. That's beautiful. I love that. There was a quick question that I want to get to real quick. John, Troy asked, could talking about children in the love letter be considered discriminatory familia status?
Technically, yes,
Okay.
but I think there's some differences of opinion about that when it's a buyer talking about their family. If it was to be a seller saying, that we would love to see a family with children come and buy our home, that would be discriminatory. But
Okay.
for a buyer to talk about their family, is probably in that gray area, but probably safe.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. All right. Real quick, want to get through this because we've only got about 9 minutes left here. I love the fact, Bill, you're talking about use realistic, or assertive yet realistic timeframes. As a listing broker, right? You're not wanting that, again, that selling by agent to overpromise and underdeliver again, right?
Right, and a lot of people will do that so that they win, but I know in my heart, based on the fact that there's got to be a septic inspection and all that stuff, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. We know septics are going to take 10 days. We know HOA docs, if you don't have them already, are going to take, up to 10
Resale
business
cert.
days. Yeah, resale cert is going to take up to 10 days. So get that. Okay. So let's look at the next slide here. More mechanics, right? Again, some of the stuff that we've already covered, right? Call or text a listing broker again, advise the offer's been sent. I love this one. Dylan and Kristen, maybe you can answer this. Do you guys have your lenders call
Yep.
the listing agent?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Every single
Why?
time.
Why?
Well, number one, when your lender is calling them and the agent doesn't have to call the lender, it means that they're prepared. They're ready to go. They are working for that buyer. They're going to be attentive. And then they're able to talk about the strength of that loan and answer any questions that agent has. And then they're going to remember that the lender called them.
Yeah.
The other side of that is I'll often have people say, well, here's my lender's information. You can call him if you want to.
I hate that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That says you're lazy and you want me to do your job.
There you go. Right. I always have my lender call him because I want I want it to show the listing agent that my lender is a part of my team and we're working together for the best thing for the client. So yeah. So here's the thing that I've seen come across a lot, and that's make sure the loan type matches the listing. If a loan type is not listed on the listing, the best way to do it is to call the listing agent and say, hey, can I ask why? Just help me to understand why this is not being accepted here right now. And they may have a very good reason why that's there, but make sure the pre-approval letter matches the terms of the offer, right? But what do you mean by have the pre-approval letter match the terms of your offer and 35E?
Well, very often you'll have a pre-approval letter say that's at 500, but they give you an offer that's at 525 with an escalator to 575. And basically it says, okay, I'm $75,000 short, but still I want you to pick my offer.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. We've already talked about this, about numerically, and alphabetically lining out those docs. When you send it over, send the entire offer and disclosures in one single file. Talk to me about that, Bill.
I had, when I had those 27 offers, one agent sent his offer in 12 separate attachments. He didn't get the first base. I looked at the Form 21 and realized that it was about as good as his performance with asking me to do all the work. I shouldn't have to open a dozen documents. Make it simple for them to tell you yes.
There you
Write
go.
an offer that says, you want your offer to scream, pick me because I've done a great job.
There you go. I love that. Okay. It says, include in your email the bullet point advantages. And Dylan and Kristen, talk to me about this. When you send that offer over and the email, are you bullet pointing out the highlights of your offer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you selling your buyers and how are you selling yourself and the team when you send that over as well?
Well, Dylan, did you want to go? Otherwise, I'll go.
You go first.
Okay. Well, beyond the phone discussion, I sell my lender and my buyers to the listing agent over the phone. And then when I write the email, I'm keeping it fairly short, but I'm thanking them for their time and answering my questions on our previous phone calls. And I just wanted to remind them that my first-time home buyers absolutely love this property, and maybe a reminder of what we talked about in that conversation, and saying I'm really looking forward to the possibility of working with you. And the lender's already called you, and so here's just a summary of our offer. And I make sure that's bold and highlighted with bullet points, and say, please ask me if you have any further questions, and I'll be touching base with you again soon.
Nice.
Send it over.
Nice.
One PDF file.
There you go. Okay. Dylan,
Yeah,
anything to add?
basically the same thing. I like to, when I'm doing my bullet points, first thing, purchase price, and then the strongest things about the offer, earnest money, type of financing, and then I'll typically wait. If there's seller concessions, I'll do those at the end. But
There you go.
but I like to highlight every little thing that I think could stick out about the offer.
There you go. There you go. I love this in here too. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
During COVID and everything, when I've had clients that are essential workers, I'll always like to highlight that, because I think that's a little bit of peace of mind for listing agents and sellers.
There you go. There you go. I love this. Let's kind of finish up here, right? Because our hour's almost up. But if adding or revising, say the 35E, or resend, I can't highlight this enough. Resend the entire package. Resend the entire contract. So when you make a change, don't just send over that one page. Send the whole thing over again, so that we know that it's the latest version, and get the receipt that and confirmed, right? Always ask the listing broker for confirmation of receipt of the PSA and subsequent revisions or addenda. And Bill, talk about this real quick. This is a listing broker tip, but for runners up, send a copy of the PSA, page 1, with respectfully declined at this time, signed by the seller. And if you're not the winner, talk about becoming the backup offer real quick.
So the listing broker tip there, essentially what I want, again, it goes back to developing my reputation. I want people to know, if I got 27 offers, you all had your day in court. Everybody had a fair chance, because very often the only person that hears anything is the person who got the successful offer.
Sure.
And I want people to know that, yeah, my client saw it, and respectfully declined at this time has to do with the first offer may fail. I don't want to, I mean, a lot of people want to play God as the listing broker, and you're just a bunch of my schmucks, and I'm the guy who has the inventory. I've got all the control. Some people will treat you very poorly. I want them to know that we treated them with respect. We looked at their offer. And if your offer is not the winner, I don't favor going in and saying, I'll take a backup offer. I know you've got multiple offers. I'll take a backup offer right up front. But I always try to ask after the fact, when I learn that I'm not the winner, would you be willing to accept backup offers? It's a simple form 38A. I will tell you that very often I've done this a lot, and I would say probably at least a third of the ones I have done have wound up getting the deal.
There you go.
The first deal fell apart.
There you go.
Very
nice.
I agree with that. I may not do what Bill is doing with the response, but I actually physically call each agent when they don't win and talk to them about just letting them know that unfortunately my seller went with a different offer. And that's because I personally don't like it when I've been in competition and nobody explains to me, because my clients are going to want to know why. They want to know why.
Yeah.
The best that they can. And I want to be able to give them a good answer. So I actually call every single person to give them the information, the news.
Excellent. And we've got this last slide here. We're out of time, but I'm going to be sending, for everybody that's participated today, I'm going to be sending these slides out to them, Bill, with your permission, because I know that these were your things.
That's what they're for.
But guys, give me one thing, and one thing that's going to get your client's offer accepted that you think is going to be better than anything else. What's the one thing, Dylan? What's the one thing that you would tell people, this is how you get your buyer's offer accepted?
Know their whole situation. If they know what they need for their minimum down payment, what funds they have, and then outline the different scenarios. I mean, if there's funds for a 22 AD, if they can pay some or all of their closing costs. And then if you're able to do a pre-inspection, whatever you can do to get your contingencies lowered and still feel like and still have your buyer feel safe and protected about
Awesome.
it with doing their due diligence beforehand.
Thank you, Dylan. Kristen?
Well, I agree with that. It's expectations and strategy and knowing everything you can about what your buyers can do. And so definitely make sure that if they're looking at a $300,000 house, that you're actually looking at $270,000 homes, and prepare them to go to their $300,000 limit. And you prepare for that fact that they may need closing costs added in there, and whatever the case might be. That's just knowing how to be able to go in and win and give the seller what they need, but also that your buyers are taken care of as well.
Awesome. And Bill, any last advice?
Well, to me, it's do as much of this whole package as you possibly can. Be complete, be thorough, be professional, and do the best you possibly can for your client. You know, in that case where I had 27 offers, we can only have one winner. But if you go into that as knowing that you've got a lot of competition and you've proven to your buyer that you have done everything you possibly can to do a professional, thorough job, you're still a winner.
There
You may
you
not
go.
have gotten that transaction, but you get to keep the client. The mission to me is for both parties to end up with a closing where you've got somebody who you developed a relationship with that other agent that maybe they want to become a part of your profit sharing tree. Maybe they want to start referring you business. Maybe they want to share listings with you. I mean, it's a sales job all the way through, and do the job from start to finish.
That's awesome. God, guys, I can't thank each one of you enough for just being so generous with your time and helping other agents, you know, be stronger in the market. Guys, I will tell you, those of you that are watching right now, those that are recording, these guys are willing for you to reach out anytime to them, to give them a call or email them. You can call the front desk and we will get you connected with them. But to all of you, thank you for being such a success and sharing it with us. So it means the world to us. And thank you for all that you guys do. Everyone have a very Merry Christmas, the best of Hanukkah or whatever, you know, you celebrate, just enjoy it. And we love you all. Have a great day, guys. Guys, thank you again. Kristen, I know you got to run, so get down there. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.